See you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Busy Friday. President Trump firing up his base today with a rousing speech at CPAC outside Washington, D.C. He addressed a number of pressing issues, including the crisis in our schools, North Korea, and also the upcoming elections, hoping to motivate the crowd not to be complacent about the midterms.
Historically, if you win the presidency, you don't do well 2 years later. And you know what? We can't let that happen. Don't be complacent, because if they get in, they will repeal your tax cuts. They will put judges in that you wouldn't believe. They'll take away your Second Amendment, which we will never allow to happen. They'll take away your Second Amendment. They will take away those massive tax cuts, and they will take away your Second Amendment. The Senate Democrats and the House Democrats have totally abandoned DACA. They don't even talk to me about it. They have totally abandoned. You know, we get the reputation like DACA. It's not Republican. Don't worry, you're getting the wall. Don't worry, okay? I heard some. Getting the wall.
There was, of course, lots of trademark Trump flash as well.
All those horrible people back there, they're going to support me. You know why? Because if somebody else won, their ratings would go down. They'd all be out of business. My administration, I think, has had the most successful first year in the history of the presidency. I really believe that. We have a very, very crooked media. When I was here 2011, I made a speech. It was a love fest. 2011, I believe, the time. And a lot of people remembered, and they said, we won Trump, we won Trump. By the way, what a nice picture that is. Look at that. I'd love to watch that guy speak. Oh, boy. Let's see. I try like hell to hide that bald spot, folks. I work harder. Doesn't look bad. Hey, we're hanging in. We're hanging in.
We're hanging in. I thought, Greg, that was the best moment. It's so self-deprecating for someone that's pretty, I wouldn't say vain, but is very involved with his hair. He loves his hair, and to make that point, I thought it was pretty funny. Yes, I mean,
I don't know if this is recent, but he's really good at taking the slings and the arrows and turning them into armor. So it's like, it's very difficult. You were talking to me about this new Stephen Colbert cartoon about Trump and how hard it is for anti-Trump comedians to prosper, because Trump himself is actually more interesting.
Yeah, what I said was that the cartoon's not that funny.
Yeah, because you're competing with that.
He's funnier.
That's actually funnier. So it's like, imagine a portrait class where everybody's painting an athlete, but all they can do are stick figures. That's what's happening. You can't make... He's better at doing this than everybody else. I would say he's adept at it, because he loves the word adept.
He loves that.
But I did feel like watching this that I was like at Ruth Chris, because there was so much red meat. But that's the audience that wants it. When you're going to CPAC, you give the red meat. But the only difference is he's interesting and he's funny. I mean, the Democrats could use some of that.
Very entertaining. We think the Democrats are funnier, Greg, for different reasons.
Yes.
We're laughing at them, not with them. He was there, obviously, to, tout his accomplishments, but also to fire up the base, because it's going to be a base election, and traditionally, the party in power doesn't do well. Do you think he effectively, created any momentum for the base?
For the crowd there, absolutely.
But in the larger context?
Well, yeah, but he has the three big things, accomplishments he's going to point to are tax reform and the economy.
Yep.
The judges. Yep. For this crowd in particular. And then I think he would say Second Amendment protections. That's not really a proactive thing that he did.
But they love that.
Those are the three things that he kept repeating. And it's not so much a prospective thing, like, look at all the things we're going to do this year in 2018. That's what he said last year. Look what we're going to do in 2017. Because there's really nothing. that they're really going to be able to get done. I don't think immigration is going to get done, and I just saw John Cornyn has just put out a statement saying he does not agree with the president on raising the age of the weapons to 21, of getting a weapon to 21, and so you already see that peeling off in the Senate. So the prospective things aren't going to work.
Right.
But telling that crowd that if the Democrats win, they're going to take away the tax cuts, they're going to try to take away the judges that you have, and they're going to try to repeal the Second Amendment.
Wow.
So you better go out there and vote. The only thing about this speech, and I've said this a lot, is that I feel like he could drive a news cycle better if he chose one thing to drive news on at the top of the speech, let the networks and all the reporters cover that piece, and then move on to do the rest of the speech, because everything gets lost. It was like being at Ruth Chris with like 5-course meal, and I couldn't eat it all.
So, and the big news, I think, what you would say was the North Korea sanctions, that he left to the very end. I almost think he might have even forgotten he was
Right.
going to break the North Korea sanction news,
Right.
because there was so much other stuff. And he also spoke to reporters before he even got to the event. And I see what you mean about diluting the message. Juan, what was the most offensive part of the speech?
7 years to go. You know, for an old man, you know, you're risking a heart attack, President.
You gonna make it?
7 years. Oh, my God. That's what he said. 7 years to go. The CPAC audience went wild.
Yeah.
So this was a rally. That's what I thought it was going to be, and I think his staff thought it was going to be something about increasing sanctions on North Korea. As you say, he's kind of got to it at the very end, but as an afterthought. He was far more interested in, to pick up on the steakhouse analogy, of throwing out the chunks of red meat everywhere he turned. I was surprised that he was throwing out chunks, though, that had to do with things like Democrats abandoned DACA. I'm the one who cared. Wow. Wait a minute. He's the one who ended DACA and set this March deadline. Now he finds himself in a situation, the deadline's approaching, and he's got nothing, and the Democrats are willing to take a risk. I hope they're having a little more spine than they did last time when Schumer backed out on that budget deal. And then this business about lock her up. Jesse, it just seems to me like, you know, what would you say, Greg? That's a 1970s hit? You know what I mean? We've been through that, and he